Hanford, the most polluted place in America. Its main purpose was to produce plutonium for the atomic bomb. It's pretty much all common knowledge, but here are 5 things you didn't know about the pollution at Hanford. You are looking at one of Hanford's nuclear reactors, the B reactor. This reactor is one of the places where they produce plutonium for the atomic bomb. The workers of the Manhattan Project were constantly exposed to radioactive materials, and they were also handling a variety of toxic chemicals. This led to some serious health risks, and most of them had fatal results. In fact, some carcinogens were found within some of the materials used on site, and many people were exposed to them.
Carcinogen can basically cause cancer.
I had the opportunity to interview Larry Halter, a worker at the Hanford National Park.
And we do have carcinogens in chemicals we used here. We were using a carcinogen called hydrazine for many years. And 2 brothers who were what we call power operators were in charge of putting the chemical called hydrazine. Hydrazine, unfortunately, is a carcinogen that attacks the liver, as well as, I believe, the stomach, but mainly the liver. And these 2 brothers died 6 months apart from each other due to that carcinogen.
We are standing at the mighty Columbia River. The Columbia River faced many issues to do with the chemical waste from Hanford. One of the biggest effects was the carcinogen called dichromate. Dichromate was produced when a cleaning solution was passed through the reactor. We are located at the Reach Museum. As you can see, there was a vast variety of plants and animals. The species that was specifically affected were the fish, but specifically the salmon.
You know, a little bit warmer water than normal than you'd have in the surrounding Columbia area out to the water. It was just steam that turned into water, and it was pumped out to the Columbia River, and the fish would not migrate. They would stay there, and they'd get very large and fat. The things that they feed off would not migrate either. So we had quite a fish population in the Columbia River around the reactor.
The salmon were heavily affected by the radiation and carcinogens being leaked into the river. This didn't necessarily affect the population, but it affected the Native Americans, who fished for salmon on a regular basis. Many nearby Native American communities of the Columbia River noticed the pollution in the wildlife and the water. The creation of Hanford displaced a few tribes and affected their traditional fishing grounds. Due to the fast security of Hanford, the natives were escorted to their fishing sites and were kept under consistent watch while fishing. On top of the restrictions, the fish were affected by the radiation, causing many Native Americans to face the same chemicals and health risks as many of the workers. One big factor of the pollution is the 177 tanks filled with radioactive soup. These tanks are facing major problems.
The original single shell tanks, the carbon steel was about this thick originally. With age and all the chemicals that are in there, plus everything else that's in there that we put in there, the walls have gotten thinner and thinner and thinner.
And this soup has been spilled out into this Columbia River. Many more will be leaked over time if there isn't a cleanup plan for it. Now you're probably wondering, what's going to happen? Is the government actually going to clean all this up? Currently, there is a waste treatment project in place right now.
There's a facility being built now called the waste treatment plant. What they intend to do is when they process the fuel in the processing plants, they got liquid, very highly radioactive waste, and that went into these big 1-million-gallon underground tanks. What they're going to do is pump the waste out of the tanks, and they're going to take it over to it's called the vitrification plant, and they are going to turn it into glass logs, and then those glass logs will be stored in an underground repository.
Studies say that it could take up to 50 years to completely clean up. Although that is still a long ways away, the cleanup has begun and hopefully it will work out. Most of the radioactive material is buried underground, covered in dirt and other materials. Hanford has affected many different aspects of the environment and population around it. Hopefully you learned a thing or two about the pollution at Hanford. This has been History in 5. Until next time.